Good morning, business leaders. Good morning to you. Greetings from this side of heaven. My name is Rosemary Tusabe, the founder and CEO of Toddlers Gold Limited, a business that exists to provide you and your child with all the tools, the games, and the toys that they need to foster their growth and development from a young age. Visit us, check us out. I will leave a link to our social media channels such that you can follow us, connect with us, and let us do this journey of life together. Well, today I'm so privileged to share with you on a topic that I'm very excited about, where we're in a season that we're preparing for growth and to launch our businesses to the next level in 2024. So today I'll be sharing with us on your ideal business mindset for 2024. And this is for us as business leaders. This is to nudge us to do, things that we probably did not do in 2023, but for us to also do better in the coming year. Well, I'll begin with the first of 6 nuggets. So there were 5, and I added a bonus. And so therefore there are 6, but let's get right into it. The first one is the goal of your business is to dominate in order to influence for the kingdom of our God. What does that mean? I'll begin by sharing a simple story from the Bible. In Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verses 15 to 16, the Bible talks about a very wise man in a certain city that saved the entire city. But guess what? He was a poor man. And therefore, all his wisdom did not amount to much, because inasmuch as he saved the city, everyone forgot his wisdom just because he was poor. And therefore, I don't want that to be our story. I need us to understand that we are here to dominate, to dominate. And that was the charge that God gave us in the book of Genesis. And therefore, I'd like us to fasten our seatbelts and have that mindset whereby we know we're here to influence for the kingdom, and we're here to take charge, and we're here to dominate. Yes. And so a quote that I came across was that the brave may not live forever, but the cautious do not live at all. We need to push ourselves to the edge. We need to try out new things. We need to see how we can dominate. We need to see how we can do things at the next level. I'm constantly thinking about Donald Trump, who is a part of over 500 businesses. How is that even possible for one human being? It's very possible. And therefore, I'd like us to see the kind of wealth that Dangote has here coming from Uganda. And I think it's really, really possible if we have the right mindset, if we are switched on when it comes to our vision and where we see ourselves going in the future. Adam and Eve, who, yes, from the book of Genesis, God gave them charge over all of creation. But I feel that they did not understand the assignment. Why? When the serpent, when the snake came and spoke to Eve, and eventually had an effect on Adam as well, God had already given them charge over that snake. So they could have quickly put it in line by telling them that, you know what, because we have dominion over you, this is what we are commanding you to do. But instead, they subdued to what the snake had actually told them to do, which was not in line with what God had told them. And so may we not be Adam and Eve. May we not look at our businesses and instead of doing what God has commissioned us to do, we're doing the complete opposite. We're listening to the world. We're listening to wisdom from, our peers who might not quite understand what God has called us to do. I'm constantly intrigued by Richard Branson, who registered Virgin Galactic the day after a child asked him on an interview in 1988 whether he'd like to go to space. Fast forward, the Virgin brand has over 400 products and services that have been registered under it, and he is doing great, great things. And so take action. When you are called to dominate, you think a certain way. And so let us refrain from thinking small things. Let us refrain from looking for validation from people around us. But let us understand the charge that God, the creator of heaven and earth, has actually given us. When we look at King Solomon, the pinnacle of Israel's wise men and the richest man who ever lived, guess what? He wrote 3,000 proverbs and his songs were 1,005. So now you in your business, if you understand dominion, how much content have you prepared? How many teachings have you taught? How many spaces have you walked into and shared the wisdom that you actually have, or even talked about your business in different forums? King Solomon, who was already wise, did these things. He put in the work. What about you? What about I? And so, with our first nugget, we need to understand that the goal of your business is to dominate in order to influence for the kingdom of our God. And the second one is purpose and priority. Here, when you understand what your purpose is, you're able to prioritize and sieve out what you ought to do and what you ought not to do with surgical precision. What do I mean? There are always tons of available opportunities, conferences here, networking opportunities, people to meet. But guess what? Are they all for you? Have you sat down to evaluate and understand how valuable and how precious the time that you have been given or allotted is? If you understand your purpose, then you'll be able to sieve off those things that are not for you and those that are for you, and you'll prioritize them, you'll invest in them, you will go and be present, you will grow your networks in those fields. But you find that every single time there's an opening to do maybe a business program that's not in line with what you're doing or with what your purpose is, you then throw your money there, you waste time, and then guess what? There's nothing to show after it, for it, sorry. And so in 2024, I hope that we'll understand with depth what our purpose is and therefore be able to prioritize our resources, our time, our networks, our energy, such that we are able to bring out the best version of ourselves, but also move our businesses a step further towards dominating in the fields in which we operate. And therefore, my question to you is, do you do things out of knowledge or merely out of excitement? Always check with yourself what the motive is for the things that you are doing. And the third nugget is do not waste, do not waste, do not waste. Many of us waste without even knowing. And I'd like us to draw some wisdom from the story in the Bible where Jesus feeds the 5,000. And the Bible is clear to tell us that he feeds 5,000. There were 5,000 men. This did not include the children and the women. So they could have been well over 10,000 people. But well, let's go with a 5K. Jesus feeds the 5,000 on 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. But what intrigues me about this story is when they were done feeding the multitudes, Jesus sent the disciples out to collect the broken fragments or what remained of the bread and the fish, and they were able to collect 12 baskets full. And so, what does that mean? Sometimes in our businesses, yes, we churn money out. We probably hire an influencer to help us promote our business. We probably engage in different activities, whether it's in marketing and sales, whether it's in, customer care, whether it's in finance. You probably install a program, an accounting software in your business, but you do not go back to evaluate. You do not see whether it's helping you achieve your intended goals and objectives. And so, therefore, you find that you've invested in something, you don't do M&E, and then, therefore, it becomes a waste to the business. So, I'd like us to have this in mind as we go towards approaching 2024 with the mindset to dominate, that we are not going to be people who waste. We don't waste time, we don't waste our money, we don't waste our human resource, we don't waste our networks. We are people that plan properly, we go ahead and execute, but then we continue to do monitoring as the project or as the year carries along, and then we evaluate. If it's working, we go ahead and continue with it. If it's not working, we go back and see what can be done differently to ensure we avoid waste at all costs. God does not like waste. And so I'd like us to know that in as much as we're operating businesses, they're not ours. We are merely stewards. And so therefore, do not waste. At every opportunity you have, do not waste. gather those fragmented pieces of bread and fish, collect them. You can reuse them. You can channel that energy into, something else, into a new product, but do not waste the resources that God has given you. And the fourth one is do not spare any expense. Do not spare any expense. I know you might be wondering, what do you mean? So in the book of Isaiah, chapter 54, verse 2, from the NLT version, it says, enlarge your house. And here, because we're talking about business, we will refer to business. Enlarge your business and spare no expense. Wow, what does that mean? You should constantly have the mindset of expansion. Expand your business, expansion of your networks, expansion of your mind. Yes, personal expansion is very important because you operate at your level of revelation. The limited you are in terms of your level of revelation, you'll find that your scope of operation is also limited. And therefore, you need to understand that it comes at a cost for you to expand your networks, for you to expand your business, for you to expand your mind. And so do not let the fact that it comes at a cost stop you. That's why the Bible is telling us, spare no expense. Okay? And so just remember that most people die at the age of 30 and are buried at 80. Far from us, like that is not our portion. And therefore, for us to live our full lives to our full potential, we ought to know where we are going, where our businesses are going, and invest in that area such that we are constantly expanding our reach. We're constantly expanding our influence. We're constantly expanding such that at the end of the day, we understand that the goal is for us to dominate and influence for the kingdom of our God. And therefore, that brings us to the fifth business, the nugget that I have for us, which is become a master of your business or the field in which you are operating. Okay? So yes, we're constantly going back to where we started off, and which is that the goal is for us to dominate. You cannot be a master and you cannot dominate if you are not knowledgeable in the field in which you're operating. And therefore, you need to understand that the world is evolving rapidly. And therefore, it's critical that you understand the internal and external forces that affect your business and your industry in order to operate with precision. Wow. And so, therefore, at your fingertips should always be data, should always be statistics, should always be information such that you're able to make decisions in time for you to grow your business to the next level. And therefore, there's an equation I'd like to leave us with. Great vision plus precision plus systems equals predictable success. Yes, if you're going to have predictable success, you need to have great vision, you need to be able to operate with surgical precision, and you need to have the systems that enable you to move your business from the place that it is to the next level. Yes. And therefore, the seeds of tomorrow's brilliance are planted in the soil of today's activity. Yes. So as we conclude, I'd like to leave us with the bonus one that I told us about at the beginning, which is do not be a martyr. Yes, that's one I got from Director Grace. You ought to schedule your moments of celebration because the time of mourning will schedule itself. This one I learned from Apostle Mose a number of years ago, and therefore you need to be intentional about doing things that bring joy, that bring excitement, that motivate us to work in our businesses and motivate those who work with us to also continue working with us. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful. I hope you've learned a thing or two. Please go ahead and share with me in the comment section such that I know what you have learned and it helps me as I prepare the next teaching that I'll be sharing with us shortly. Thank you so much and have a blessed day. Bye.